The following announcement has been paid for by the New Howl Order.
Whether the team is giving us the highest of highs or the bluest of blues, we'll cover it all here on Commanders Nightly News. I, of course, am your host, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. Let's get to tonight's lead story. I want to start off tonight by giving you another quick public service announcement. This one isn't going to be as long as yesterday's was. Yesterday's was a much more impactful PSA. Today is more just of a reminder. And I tell you guys this all the time. You're going to hear this from me a number of times as the season, the offseason progresses. I always tell you guys, believe half of what you see, none of what you hear, even if it's spat by me, your man Louie T. You know the rhetoric, you know how we do. But I want to specifically just talk about socials for a second, social media. It's an evil, evil world, as a wise man once said, okay? All right? It's an evil world out there. Be careful on socials, man. It's a lot of foolishness. Most people are on socials looking for attention of some sort. Good, bad, don't care. They're just looking for something, right? So just be careful, right? With that said, there are some good things that you can find. There's good information up there. There's also a lot of faulty information. And there's a lot of people trolling too, right? I was on social media today and I saw someone comparing Kendall Fuller to Sauce Gardner. And I'm like, you can't, you're kidding, right? You can't be serious here, right? This is a joke. And initially, I was like, okay, he's got to be kidding. Because people troll because they're looking for attention. Because as I mentioned already, when you post on social media, you're looking for attention. Now, what attention are you looking for? Don't know. Don't know what your intentions are. But when you post, the people who don't need attention, they don't post anything, right? They're not looking for the extra attention. They're not looking for any of the spotlight. People like me are lurkers for a reason. We don't need the extra attention. If I wasn't doing this, I wouldn't have social media. Just being honest with you. I don't feel the need to put my business out in the streets, and I don't feel the need to make other people feel a certain type of way about what I think. So I usually only use social media when it's necessary or if I feel like being funny, right? Promote the show, or I'm trying to be funny or something to that effect, or I'm watching something and I'm watching a game and it's really good, or the officials make a really bad call or something, and I just feel the need to say something, right? It's rare though. I don't post a ton, okay? I'm probably a very boring follow. I'll do a lot of retweeting and things of that nature, but I'm probably a really boring follow, right? And I'm not ashamed of that. And I'm on socials. I see this comparison and I'm like, this is a joke, right? Like, you're not comparing Sauce Gardner to Kendall Fuller, right? Like, we're not doing this. And a Washington fan says something to him and he's like, nah, I'm trolling. I be trolling sometimes. I'm like, okay, cool. And, just for safe measure, I scroll down just a little bit more just to make sure that he's trolling. And a Jet fan comes to him. Now he sticks his chest out. Now the bravado starts to ooze out of this post. And now all of a sudden, he's standing 10 toes down in his shit. And it stinks. I'm like, ew, you got all kinds of brown stuff coming in between your toes, man. Yuck. Just be careful on social media, okay? There's a lot of craziness up there. That said, for every 250,000 insane posts, there's a good one out there, right? Something that, if not educational, at least thought-provoking. So I was perusing socials and I see this post. And I thought, interesting question. And that question was very simple. And I don't know if you guys caught this, but I did post a video today. My second in the quarterback conundrum series. This one was centered around Justin Fields and the decision that the Chicago Bears have to make at number 1 overall. And so the question that was posed on socials was simple. If the Bears offered Justin Fields to the Washington Commanders for a 3rd round selection, would you do it? I know how I feel, but I want to know how you feel, and I don't want to influence how you feel. So I'm just going to ask you the question, and you can leave it down in the comment section and we can discuss. But if the Bears said, we're going to spend the number 1 overall pick on Caleb Williams, and that was the player Washington was targeting, and they don't want any of the other quarterbacks, but they know they have to do something, which I don't know if you have to do anything. If you don't select one of those quarterbacks, you could get another one of the other guys later on in the draft. There's going to be a slew of quarterbacks available. I would be interested to see what would happen if they didn't take a quarterback, as to what they would do in the coming rounds after that. Would they look to get a quarterback in the 2nd or the 3rd or whatever? But if the Bears are trading Justin Fields, they're going to do it prior to the draft, right? They're not going to wait until after the draft. It'll either happen prior to the draft or it'll happen during the draft. But they're going to get that draft capital ASAP. They're not going to have that be a 3rd rounder next year, right? So they know where our 3rd rounders will be by the time next week rolls around. They'll know exactly where our 2 3rd rounders are. We have a compensatory pick from the 49ers, and we have our 3rd round pick. And let's say of the 2, they want ours, the higher of the 2. Would you be interested in trading a 3rd round pick for Justin Fields, who is going into year 4? All right, this will be year 4 next year. And you'd have to make a decision this offseason on whether you're going to pick up the 5th-year option or not. So that's something that I would assume if you're trading for Fields, similar to all the teams that made trades a couple of years back when we saw the Panthers trade for Sam Darnold and et cetera, et cetera. We saw like 2 or 3 teams trade for guys with, 5th-year options on the table. You have to pick up the 5th-year option. If you're going to trade for a guy going into year 4 and you want to find out if this guy can play or not, you have to pick up the 5th-year option. It's costly, right? It's costly. Depending on where that player was selected, it's costly, but it's the cost of doing business if you're going to try to kick the tires on a former 1st-round pick. Would you be interested in a 3rd-round pick for Justin Fields? That would allow you to spend your 1st-round pick on whatever you like. You can spend it on whatever you like. Yeah. So that could be a tackle. That could be a receiver. Whatever. Right? Leave it in the comment section. I won't hold you there too long. Let's get to in other news. In other news is going to be quite long today because we have a poll to go over and react to. So roughly a week ago, I posted a poll question that was tied to the show in which I asked you about 4 options, 5 total, but 4 options with Washington's 1st-round pick. And they all had to do with the quarterback position. First option was Sam Howell. Second option was getting your hands on Caleb Williams. Third option was Jaden Daniels, or I think it was Jaden Daniels. May have been Caleb May or Drake May. Fourth option was Jaden Daniels or Drake May. Doesn't matter. And then the fifth option was other. And other is pretty much anything but the 4 options that were previous to that last one. So that could be trading back. That could be taking a tackle. That could be taking a tight end. That could be taking a receiver. That could be trading for Justin Fields, as we just, talked about in the opener. Could be anything, right? Other. You just do something, with that pick other than pick one of the, take one of the 4 options that we talked about prior to that one. So we'll get to those results, and I want to read some of the comments because there were some really interesting comments that were left under the poll question as well. So we'll go over the results. We'll go over some of the comments, and we'll react to all of that stuff. Also, before we even get to that, I do want to first just briefly talk about this Cowboys game on Sunday. I don't have a lot to say about it. As you can see, I didn't talk about it yesterday. I'm not going to talk about it a lot today. You can feel free to talk about it if you'd like. I'll chime in if you need me to, but it's week 18. We're the worst team in football currently with the longest losing streak in the league. I really don't care about this game. Just 3 things. All right. There are 3 things that I actually do give a damn about in terms of Sunday's game. 1, and this trumps everything, and you already know what I'm about to say, but I'm going to say it anyway. Lose at all costs, okay? There's no justice, nor is there any rationale behind winning this game. And I understand all of the fans out there that can't stand losing to Dallas. Get over yourself for one freaking day for 3 hours, okay? I get it. I hate Dallas just as much as you do, okay? I hate losing just as much as you do. And when you combine the two, it pisses me off. Losing to Dallas. I get it. But understand what beating Dallas would do to our draft position and what it could do to the future of this franchise, short and long term. Now, we don't know if the guy that we're going to select with the number 2 overall pick or potentially trade up to the number 1 overall pick to get is going to do and how well he's going to play or how poor he's going to play. We don't know any of that. But at least you want the option available to you. Now, that same option could exist at 5 if you win, at 6 if you win, but you're going to have to give up so much more if you win. So let's just not explore that option, and let's do the smart thing. And we've done a great job here on this 7-game skid that we're on, okay? Let's finish the job. Let's finish the job. Okay, so that's number 1. Number 2, the next important thing, Sam's starting. He's starting when he finished. You know, if Sam's playing, I'm back outside. I got my winter coat on. I've got my hat on. It's cold as a bitch. It's supposed to snow on Saturday. I am fully aware, but I'm back outside because my guy's playing again. You already know what it is, okay? Nothing has changed. So I want to see him play well, but I want to make sure it's in a losing effort. And then number 3. And this one is pretty near and dear to my heart. It isn't often that I chase after stats as a fan. If Eric Bieniemy was winning games, if we were winning games, if his philosophy was leading to victories, I'd be a little bit more understanding. I still would be like, yo, because it's easier to win when you get your best players to football. You'll never be able to convince me otherwise. But had we found a way to circumvent getting the ball to our best players and still finding ways to win, I would have been on board. Collectively dragging our asses across the finish line with Terry having 3 targets, 1 catch for 6 yards. I would have been okay with that to a degree, right? Jahan Dotson, another game with 1 target, no catch. I would have been fine with that had we been winning, but we're not. So I have a big problem with that because in my mind, if you get the ball to your best players, it gives you a better chance to win. But that's nor here nor there. Okay. The bottom line is Terry McLaurin needs 54 yards for another 1,000-yard season, which would be his 4th consecutive. No other Washington player in this franchise's history has ever done it. Art Monk has done it 3 years in a row. I think the Tana Man might have done it 3 years in a row. No one's ever done it 4 years in a row. It may have been Henry Ellard. I don't know if the Tana Man did it 3 years in a row or not. Henry Ellard, I think, did it 3 years in a row. But whatever the case may be, nobody's done it 4. I know that much. 17 has a chance to do something no one else has ever done in this franchise's illustrious history. And I'm one of those ones that said it would have been 5 straight years had he not gotten the concussion with 2 games left in his rookie season. So for all of the shit that Terry has gone through this year, for all of the games where he was barely noticeable, where he was out running cardio, he still has a chance to eclipse 1,000 yards. And God damn it, I need my guy to get to the century mark, okay? I need my guy to eclipse 1,000 yards receiving. If we get nothing else done in this game, we better get Terry 54 yards receiving. The first possession, I need a pass to Terry. I don't give a shit if it's at the line of scrimmage or a yard in front of the line of scrimmage. I don't want it behind the line of scrimmage. Then it counts as a run. I need Terry McLaurin to touch it early. I need him to touch it often. Hell, if you got to have it like the 49ers game where there's the one Terry McLaurin drive where there's a 42-yard catch, there's another catch, and then boom, he's at 57 yards for the game and he doesn't touch it again, so be it. I just need my guy to get to 1,000 yards. However you find a way to cook that up, make it happen. Sam is aware. I don't want to hear any shit from him after this game about, you know, the plays and how they. If Eric Bieniemy's not going to give him the ball, you go out of your way to get Terry 54 yards. This shit is on you, Sam. To hell with Eric Bieniemy. We already know he don't give a damn about Terry getting 1,000 yards. He's made that abundantly clear. F Eric Bieniemy. This is about you understanding what Terry and that record means to him. Get that man his 54 yards. Anyway, I digress. So now let's get to the poll question. And let me first say this about the poll question. I was drunk with sleep when I typed this poll question. So bear with me here. Like literally, I was asleep. And you know how you fall asleep and you're typing and you wake up and you've hit the, let's say, the E key 77 times. That's what I was doing when I typed this. Like literally, I fell asleep at least 7 times trying to type this, this poll question. So I'm amazed that there aren't more grammatical errors here, okay? Other than somehow draft Drake May and having 2 B's instead of a B and a D. Like, I'm shocked that it's not worse. But still, that's awful on my part. I should have proofread it. And you know what else is awful? That YouTube doesn't allow you to then go back and edit after you've made the poll live. And you know what? I sort of get it because you could then change, you know, what C represents if they allow you to edit. So they don't want people to start voting and then you change it and now all of a sudden it looks like C was the choice that everybody wanted when you changed the answer. I get that, but I'm like, I just wanted to take one of the drafts out of C and I just wanted to change the last B to D. Whatever. I digress. Which one of these quarterback options would you choose? Of course, everything's subject to change. Okay. You could feel this way on December 28th. And then come March 28th, you could feel differently after more things have come out, after you've had a chance to watch film on one of these guys and you've become enamored with them, whatever the case may be. This is all subject to change. But right now, I was essentially asking you, as of right now, which one of these options, if given the opportunity right now, would you select? I'm not going to lie to you. I am shocked at the response. I thought this would be a runaway B type of situation here. My guy Sam putting up a fight and almost winning this thing is a testament to what he has done this season in the first 10 weeks. You know, it's crazy. Before we get knee deep into this poll and into your responses, I was going through my videos. I forget what I was doing, but I was scrolling through the video, my log. And the week 11, I want to say it was episode 11.1, I think. I think it was entitled "Losing Sucks, but My Quarterback Has Ice Water in His Veins." And I just looked at that for a second and I was like, damn, that was just 6 weeks ago. Just 6 weeks ago. The Seattle game, obviously. Shit hasn't been the same since. Clearly. But that was just, you know, it's that's akin to, damn. I was going through my phone, as I often do as the New Year's, you know, draws near. And I saw the video of me coming out of the restaurant in South Beach screaming, let's get out of here before they take the win back. We 2-0, right? And just thinking about how I felt in that moment. And I just I could not imagine. I could have never fathomed being where we are now after starting the way that we did. Unbelievable. I'm still like, I can hear Chase Young calling Sam Howell Sammy Sosa with no shirt on, talking to the reporter after the game. And how did we get here? What in the hell happened? Chase Young is going to be playing for a Super Bowl potentially. He'll definitely be in the NFC Championship game. Montez Sweat is going to the Pro Bowl for the Chicago Bears. He still leads our team in sacks, by the way. Like, what in the hell has happened? Anyway, I digress once again. Option A, stick with Hal at least one more year. 37%. Now, first of all, let me say, golf clap. $1.5K in votes. All I was looking for was 1,000. And I literally, we had 1,000 after the first day. So we could have run with the results pretty much then. We got an extra 500. Excellent. Shout out to the 1.5K of you who participated in this poll question. That's a great sample size for this channel, and I appreciate you guys. So with that said, 37% of you said stick with Hal at least one more year. Give him a shot. with a new regime, with a better offensive line, with a better play caller, with new energy, all of that. Option B, somehow draft Caleb Williams. Obviously, some of the obstacles in front of us have changed. The Arizona Cardinals have won. We have gone from the 4th pick in the draft to now the 2nd pick in the draft. And somehow drafting Caleb Williams, again, this is all hinging upon the Bears and what they decide to do. But drafting Caleb Williams has become more of a reality than ever before if we again lose on Sunday. And it'd be nice if the Patriots just went ahead and won, right? And we'll know the situation by the time we play. The Patriots play at 1 o'clock on Sunday. So we'll know if they took care of the Jets or not. And if they did, all we got to do is lose and we'll lock up the number 2 overall pick. Now, I know you guys have seen the video of Andrew K talking about that game. And I told you JP Finley pretty much, laid it out. He does an even better job of laying it out. The guy that works for NBC and does all of the, forecasting for playoff spots. And he did the same thing for the number 2 overall pick. And he pretty much said it comes down to the Atlanta-New Orleans game. And we've gone through that already. But let's not have it come down to that, right? Let's just have the Patriots win, beat the Jets. I expect them to do that. And let's just get the number 2 pick outright. 38% for somehow drafting Caleb Williams. I did not expect that to be as close as it was. C, somehow draft Drake May. Or as I typed it, somehow draft Drake May. 8%. Wow. Okay. That speaks volumes as to how a lot of you feel about Drake May. Not all of you, clearly 8% of you think that Drake May is the answer here. Not a lot of you. Option D, which I phrased as B again, but option D, somehow draft Jaden Daniels, which we're in a position to do right now. If nothing else changes, if we have the number 2 overall pick, highly unlikely that the Bears select Jaden Daniels 1 overall. Highly unlikely that someone trades up to number 1 to select Jaden Daniels. What I'm essentially telling you is, if you want Drake May, if you want Jaden Daniels, you pretty much have that guy already at number 2. You don't have to do anything else other than what you've done better than anyone over the last 2 months, and that's lose. That's all you got to do. Pretty much. Again, Patriots need to win to ensure that we stay at 2. If they don't, then we'll be relying on someone else. I don't like relying on other people to get shit done for us. If you want something done, just better doing it yourself, right? We'll take care of our part. Losing, I prefer if New England just did what they needed to do and won, right? But if you want Jaden Daniels or Drake May, you're in a position right now at number 2 overall to get him. You don't have to really do anything else. Caleb Williams is the one that if you want him, you're going to need some help. Because you're going to need the Bears to either say, we're not trading the number 1 overall pick, but we're not taking a quarterback either. We're going to stay here and we're going to take Marvin Harrison Jr., or we're going to take a tackle. The likelihood is if they stay at 1, they're going to take Marvin Harrison Jr., right? Again, assuming that they are trading Justin Fields, right? They're moving on from Fields. If they stay at 1, they're taking a quarterback. There's no way that they stay at 1 and make a selection, a non-quarterback selection. That'd be the dumbest thing ever. Because if you're not taking Caleb Williams, someone else, I guarantee you, will trade with you to have the rights to draft Caleb Williams. I guarantee that will be the case. So they're not making a non-quarterback selection at 1. I can assure you of that. So again, you're going to need help in drafting Caleb Williams. You won't get him at 2. I've seen people have mock drafts where somehow he falls to wide. He's not falling to number 2. He will be the number 1 overall pick in this draft. Trust me. People will scrutinize him. They'll talk about his immaturity. You know, there will be rumors that come out, and there'll be some nasty ones. I assure you, this happens every year. We see this every year. If there's a red flag or a flag that's actually orange that you could pass as red, they're going to pull it. They're going to toss it, and they're going to try to drum up all of the dirt, all of the negativity that they can, because there's always someone with an agenda in the offseason when it comes to the draft. There's always somebody with an agenda. Always. That never changes. So, and that's not going to change this time. So understand that the likelihood is Caleb Williams, he'll be picked, he'll be prodded, he'll be probed, but he'll still go number 1 overall. And then option 5, other, or E, other. Anything but one of the 3 options of drafting one of the other quarterbacks. So that means if you went with A, then that means you also, by default, are signing up for other, essentially. Because if you're sticking with Sam Howell one more year, then you're not drafting a quarterback in the top 5, which means you're going to go with the tackle, or you're going to go with the receiver, or you're going to trade back. The options are endless if you're sticking with Sam Howell another year. I would still take a player, even if Sam Howell is the option that you're rolling with. I'd still take one of the elite players at the top of the draft. I'm not looking to move out of the spot. That's been the issue with this team, is generally we haven't been this bad, right? We haven't been bad enough to get one of these types of players that we perceive to be an elite talent. The last time we were here, we got Chase Young. He won Defensive Rookie of the Year, right? He did do that. The time before that, when we were this high, we traded up. We got Robert Griffin III. He did win Rookie of the Year, right? So it's not like we haven't gotten anything out of those guys. It wasn't sustainable. It wasn't sustainable, right? It didn't sustain itself. It wasn't for the long haul. It was like a shooting star. I am shocked that not that Caleb Williams and option B won out, but how close it was. I thought he would blow everyone else out of the water. I thought option B would be 50 some odd, close to 60, if not 60% of the vote. And then, one of the other 2 quarterbacks would be, I thought Sam would come somewhere in like 3rd or 4th. But what this says to me, and again, what we think in the grand scheme of things doesn't matter. We all have our opinions. We all think we know what's best for this team. And that's what makes being a fan fun, right? You think you know. But at the end of the day, they'll decide what is best for this team, whether right or wrong. But what this poll says to me, at least, and the 1.5 K of you who voted, and the 37% of the 1.5 K that voted, what that says to me is you saw enough from Sam this year, despite the lack of a run game and I shouldn't phrase it that way. The refusal to run the football, because when we ran it, we actually were successful this season. So the refusal to run the football, and because of that refusal to run the football, there was no actual play action fake that held linebackers or made them respect anything that we were doing from a play action fake standpoint, which then made it tougher to hit those second window receivers and have them be wide open because the linebackers aren't respecting your play action fake. You were negligent on the offensive line. You refused to make changes, whether in-house, after you had already, put us in the position that you did. You could have made in-house changes with guys that were sitting there on the bench rotting away that could have helped. Or you could have just done the thing that you should have done, which is be more responsible in the offseason and provide him with more options up front to protect him. That's nor here nor there. The bottom line is we can talk about all the things that didn't happen. Despite those things, we saw promise from a young quarterback. And, this is going to piss a lot of you off right now. It's going to piss you off. Because every time I bring up Kirk Cousins, I piss a lot of you off. So I'm going to piss you off for a second. But I was thinking about Sam, and I was thinking about Kirk Cousins. And I went back into my memory bank, and I thought, how did I feel about Kirk as he was stinking up the joint early in his career? Because we have fond memories of Kirk in that first year, that rookie season where he came in against Cleveland and lit up the Browns. And, Robert was all upset and in his feelings because there was this different offense for Kirk than there was for Robert. And that was the beginning of the end. Kirk starting in Cleveland and all of the bootlegs that they ran. And that didn't look like the offense Robert was running. And he got pissed off, and his dad got pissed off. And the rest is history, right? But that next year in 2013, when he got to play, Kirk was awful. And in 2014, when Kirk got to play and Jay had finally gotten here and Jay couldn't stand Robert, they went to Kirk. Kirk stunk it up, and they benched Kirk, if you recall, and put in Jay's son, Colt McCoy. Right? In that Tennessee game, they benched Kirk at halftime of that Titans game, and Colt comes in and throws like a back shoulder fade to Pierre Garçon, or at least Pierre caught it like it was a back shoulder fade, broke a tackle, ran down the sideline, and we ended up beating the Titans like 16-10 or some garbage like that. Right? And I'm thinking to myself, if I didn't have patience, I'd have wrote Kirk off. And again, Kirk was a 4th round pick. I would have wrote Kirk Cousins off right then and there. But I didn't, because at that time, patience was something that was exhibited with quarterbacks, with young quarterbacks. No one was rushing to judgment on quarterbacks. I made a comment earlier on the video when I was talking about Justin Fields and how if this were back in the day, and when I say back in the day, I'm talking about a decade ago, not even talking about 30 years ago. I'm talking about just a decade ago. We wouldn't even be having this conversation about Justin Fields. If the Bears were in this position, they would be, without a question, trading this pick away, collecting draft capital, and continuing to move forward with Justin Fields, as he's only going into his 4th season. Do you know how many years Alex Smith, as the number 1 overall pick, do you know how many years he got in San Francisco? He was drafted in 2005. You know how many years he got in San Francisco? He got 7 years in San Francisco. You know how many of them were bad before he was actually any good? 5 of them were awful, including he missed an entire season with a shoulder injury. But the first 3 were god awful. They were injury riddled, and he sucked ass. The 4th year, he missed it the entire season. The 5th year, he was average at best. And in the 6th year, he went to the NFC Championship game. It took him 6 years to figure the shit out in San Francisco. He would have been run out of town after year 2, definitely after year 3. In today's climate. And I just sit back and I think to myself, with what we've seen from Sam in the first 10 games, obviously the turnovers, like, I know I can't say I know. I think I know what's going through this kid's head. They effed him up when they told, and I told you this was going to happen. And I wanted to be wrong. And I told you this was going to happen. And I told you guys over and over again, stop bitching about sacks. I'm telling you, you're going to break this kid. It's not the hits. He's young. He's physical. He can take it. It's not going to be the hits. A lot of you were worried, oh, they're going to get this kid killed. No. He's fine. Okay? He's fine. It's not going to be the physical toll. It's going to be the mental toll of them telling him, find incompletions. Don't take a sack. So now his first recourse when he's standing in that pocket is he's not thinking about how do I deliver a dime like he was at the beginning of the season. His first thought is, don't take a sack. So even when there's not even pressure, he's not thinking about, hey, let me go through my progressions. Let me go through my reads. He's thinking about, let me get out of here and not take a sack. You can fix that. Somebody can come in here and say, hey, whatever they told you last year, forget about that shit. I want you to go back to who you were at North Carolina, and then we'll work from there, right? Let's go back to the basics. We'll get your footwork where we need to. And honestly, that hasn't been that bad this year, the footwork, right? But we'll get you where we need. Let's go back to the guy that came into the league feeling like he could do this with an abundance of let's go back there, and then we'll work from there, right? You can fix that. You can get that out of his brain. They put the battery in his back and told him, don't take a sack. You can take those batteries out. You can rewire him, put the batteries back in, and you can have him working like new again. But the likelihood is that's not going to take place. And I'm okay with that. Again, Sam had an opportunity to make this a moot point by winning games. All he had to do was win one game, beat the Giants one time, beat the Jets, just beat somebody, anybody. All he had to do was beat one team, and we'd be sitting at 6 right now, and it'd be a moot point. And he couldn't do it. Now, again, was the play calling the best? Was he being aided by his offensive play caller? Was the defense? No, none of these things were ideal, but guess what? Such is life. Figure it out. He has put himself with his play in the position to allow the next group to come in here and draft a quarterback. That's on him. He did that. So it sucks. But I was just thinking about Kirk and how the organization didn't give up on him. They could have, but they didn't. And because they didn't, it took 4 years. But in that 4th year, his second with Jay, Kirk Cousins, and remember, Kirk was on the verge of getting benched. Jay was on the verge of getting fired. That code red game, we were down 24-0. Heads were going to roll. We had a bye week the next week. Heads were going to roll. Jay was going to be fired. Kirk was going to be benched. Dan Snyder was going to force whomever he promoted to interim head coach to put Robert back in the game. It was going to be over. It's going to be over. And then we got the you like that game. You know, the comeback, and Kirk took off from there. I'd like to see Sam get another opportunity. But again, I understand how this business works. We're at number 2, and I said the same thing about the Falcons 3 years ago when they were sitting at 4. And I said, you don't know if you're going to sit in this position again. Top 5 with a chance to take a quarterback. You can't pass on that opportunity. You can't do it. They did it. Now look where they are. They had a chance to win a game, to put them in a position to win the division, and Taylor Heineke throws 3 interceptions. So you're toggling between Desmond Ridder and Taylor Heineke because you didn't draft Justin Fields. That's on you, right? They're not even throwing the ball to Kyle Pitts. He doesn't even exist on their team right now. But that, again, another discussion for another day. Washington's in a position to take a quarterback. You can't pass that opportunity up. If I say this with all sincerity, if you love one of these guys that you can draft, right? Whether it's Jaden Daniels, Drake May, Caleb Williams, and you have a chance to get them, whether it's trade up to one to get one of them or to stay at two and draft one of them. If you love what that guy brings to the table, everything about his game, the intangibles on and off the field, the arm talent, the this, the that. If you love all of that and you think this guy has the makings of a franchise quarterback, a guy that can change the game, you got to take him. You have to. Anyway, I digress. So now what I want to do is I want to go to the comment section because I was actually quite shocked by some of your questions, some of the comments. Not shocked. I was intrigued by a lot of your comments. I'll say it that way. I was intrigued by a lot of your comments. So what we'll do is we'll get in here and see if we make this a little bit bigger so you guys can see it on the screen. I think that'll do it right there. So I'm going to go through some of these comments real quick, and you guys can react to it or not as we go through some of them. All right. The Code Talker 5742 writes, I would draft the best left tackle, right tackle, offensive or center, and inside linebacker possible with our picks. If we're committed to running, I'm going with Sam. Okay. Allie says Caleb is the no-brainer business move. So are we worried about business moves or are we worried about what's best for the team on the field? If you're saying that the best business move, is the one on the field, then sure. Mike G writes, I still want Sam because we know what the major issues this year were, and they are correctable. O-line, defense, tight end, and most importantly, a play caller that highlights the pros and minimizes the cons with the offense. C. Jackson writes, give me the prototypical ideal NFL quarterback build with outstanding arm talent. Drake May. So he was one of the 8%ers that went with Drake May. That is something. That is something I will say. And that's, Caleb Williams doesn't fit that bill. Sam clearly doesn't fit that bill. That is one thing that I would like is a taller quarterback. I'll be honest with you. None of these guys are Josh Allen size-wise, right? And those guys don't grow on trees. But I'd love a 6'4" quarterback, 6'5" guy that can see over the line. That's not necessary, right? Lamar Jackson isn't 6'5". Brock Purdy isn't 6'5". Those are the two best teams in football. Those have been the two best quarterbacks in football this season. Neither one of them are hulking figures, but they're not 6 feet either, like Sam Howell is, or Caleb Williams for that matter. But I digress. Commander Cole writes, if Caleb is there, it will be impossible to pass on him. There's no if Caleb is there. You have to go and get him. He's not going to just fall into your lap at 2. Okay. You got to go get him. There's no if he's there. If he's available, if you phrase it that way, if he's available, meaning you got to go and get him and the Bears are making the number 1 overall pick available, then yeah, if you feel good about him. And I've told you guys this already, and let me just add to the conversation real quick. So I've been adamant about Ian Cunningham. That's my choice for GM. And I think that's the guy that ultimately is going to get this job, right? And I've been pretty consistent with that messaging since I've introduced him to you guys as he was introduced to me. So I think he's going to ultimately be the GM, okay? Because his strength is the opposite of Eugene Shin's strength. Part of the reason Eugene Shin is here is because he's the analytical, data-based guy, right? He's the guy that makes things make sense from a numbers standpoint. I think to balance out the group, you want someone with more practical, hands-on experience. That's where Ian Cunningham comes in to play. Former player, been groomed under guys that have an old school mentality, guys that are kind of boots on the ground, old school talent evaluators. That offers you the balance that you're looking for in the front office. I think that's the approach that they're going to take, which is why I think Ian Cunningham is going to be their guy. He's young. He's been in some of the best organizations in football. We've done this already. We'll do it again, right? I'm going to go through all the GM candidates. We're going to go through them extensively. Cunningham will be one of them. So we'll do this again. But the reason I brought up the Justin Fields question at the top of the show is because I'm thinking about what happened with the Detroit Lions. Because we're going to get our GM from somewhere, right? He's going to come from some team. He's not coming from the USFL, okay? We're not pulling him from the collegiate ranks. He's not going to be someone's AD. He's coming from someone's front office in the NFL. Similar to the Lions situation, Brad Holmes came from the LA Rams. And when he got to Detroit, the first thing he did was he reached back and he grabbed Jared Goff. The same thing could happen here, where Ian Cunningham could come from Chicago. He already knows what Ryan Poles is thinking, all right? He spent the last 2 years with GM Ryan Poles in Chicago. He knows how he feels about Fields. And he may say, hey, I believe in that kid. He could leave Chicago, come to Washington, and the first thing he might do is double back and grab Justin Fields. And if all it's going to cost you is a third-round pick, that might be the direction that he decides to go in. Again, as a GM, when you spend a first-round pick on a quarterback, you start your clock as a GM, essentially. Because if that, you are better off hiring a coach that doesn't work than drafting a quarterback that doesn't work. People will overlook a bad hire at head coach. I told you Nick Caserio, the Texans GM, hired 3 different coaches in 3 different years, his first 3 years in Houston. People will overlook that. F up the quarterback position, though, one time. Off with his head. It's the reason that we haven't seen the Indianapolis Colts until this year draft a quarterback. Their GM, Chris Ballard, said, the minute I draft a quarterback, I start my clock. So he kept going out and getting veterans. Phillip Rivers and Carson Wentz and Matt Ryan, because he was trying to avoid having his clock start. So understand that when this new GM comes in here, the first thing he might do, depending on who he is and what his philosophical beliefs are, but the first thing he may do is say, nah, I think I'm going to reach back and grab my guy. Not spending a first-round pick on a quarterback so you guys can fillet me if it doesn't work. Just a thought. Again, that doesn't have to necessarily be the way that this guy comes in and thinks, or the way that this woman comes in here and thinks, whomever the person is. Anyway, I digress. Let's see. Layla Brown writes, I still think Sam has shown enough good to build around him next season. He's going through a slump right now, but the first half of the 49ers game showed me that he's still capable of being what we thought he could be in the beginning of the season. With better coaching and better overall team around the next season, I think he'll be fine. You know what? I told you guys my emotions during the 49ers game, didn't I? I don't know if you guys saw it. It was New Year's Eve. You might have been, doing something else. You may not have caught it. But I told you guys what my emotions were. Sam, don't do this to me. Sam, I'm inside, right? Sam, don't make me go back outside, Sam. Do I need to go back outside? That first half, it reminded me of the first 10 games of the season. And I told you I wanted to give Eric Bieniemy some credit because I actually thought the play calling was balanced. It gave Sam a fighting chance. The defense actually wasn't playing horrible. So, all around, everyone around him, I thought, was giving him a chance. And up until they scored the touchdown, and then the defense went back to being the defense, and Ronald went back to being Ronald Rivera and didn't call the timeouts and try to give the offense a chance to possess the football again after they just went 82 yards, whatever, 10 plays, whatever it was, and scored the touchdown. So there was the one drive in the second half where, it was a beautiful drive. They were on the move, and then he throws the pick. And I think Terry could have done a better job of getting in and out of that break and crossing that defender's face. Sam is expecting him to cross his face. Again, you've got to fight to cross that defender's face. Whether you're running a slant or a post, you can't let that defender beat you to the football. Can't happen. But it wasn't a great throw. But it wasn't a terrible throw either. The second one is the one where you go, oh, Sam. Oh, Sam. Oh, Sam. But to Layla's point, that first half, and I'll even go as far as the third quarter. Up until that pick, that drive, we get the run to Antonio Gibson. It's called back due to hands to the face on Trenton Scott, and it's 2nd and 20, and Sam does a half roll to his left, post up, and throws a dime to Curtis Samuel for 26. And I'm thinking, uh-oh. Sam's playing that free football again because he wasn't supposed to be here. In my mind, that's what I was thinking, was the burden of him having to carry everything and have to be this, that. He was free to that. He didn't get any reps in practice all week long. He wasn't supposed to start. And it was almost like he was back last year, final game of the season. I get to come in and I just get to play loosey-goosey ball, which is what we saw earlier in the season. He just got to play ball. There was no finding completions. There was no uptightness. I thought the pass pro was actually really good in the game, so he didn't have to bail too early out of the pocket. He wasn't seeing ghosts. I thought he stood in there early on, and there was enough semblance of a run game that forced San Francisco to be honest, which made some of the throws underneath to Logan Thomas and those quick throws to get it out of his hands, little quick throw to Terry, for 4 or 5 yards on first down. Those were there because the run game was there. But again, that didn't last. Right? Anyway, Layla, I don't think you're that far off. You're not wrong. I just don't think he's going to get another shot. Chase writes, I'm sticking with Sam only because we need more than a quarterback to correct this team. Draft O-line, tight end, tackles, DBs with our picks and improve the team's bottom line. I'd love a new flashy quarterback, but we don't have the tools to build around one right now. Hell, bring back Jacoby Brissett and let him and Howe have a true competition. Next year is another stopgap to me. So I hear what you're saying, Chase, but I don't think that's good enough logic to not select a quarterback. While you don't want to destroy a young quarterback by bringing him into a bad situation, I've always told you guys that this situation isn't as bad as you think. Like, I'm not telling you that you win immediately with a better quarterback. That's not what I'm saying. But we've got draft capital. We've got cap space. We've got the means to put together at least a formidable enough team that this quarterback won't come in here and have his brains bashed in. Again, assuming that the coaching staff is adequate, the moves made this offseason are adequate. Again, I'm not expecting a home run right out of the gate. It'd be nice, but I am expecting them to do enough to give a young quarterback a fighting chance. So I don't think that's a good enough reason. Yeah, there are holes on this roster all over the place, and there are things that need to be done. You can do both simultaneously. You don't have to avoid the quarterback so that you can draft O-line, tight end, linebacker, tackles, DBs, et cetera, et cetera. You can draft the quarterback and still draft a tackle in the second round, a defensive end, a corner in the third round, a tight end in the third. You can still do all of these things and draft a quarterback. They don't have to be mutually exclusive. Tony P says, we have a new owner, but RG3's short era taught me to be afraid of nice things. What if somehow we get Caleb and he starts throwing the O-line and receivers under the bus like RG3? Again, that's part of the vetting process. You got to figure out who this kid is. Like Mike Shanahan told us after the fact that he sat in Robert Griffin III's living room and he brought up some negative plays with him and his dad. And, they started essentially beating each other up over who was going to throw Art Briles under the bus first, right? They couldn't help themselves but throw Art Briles under the bus. It was never Robert's fault. That was a sign of things to come. You can't ignore the red lights. You can't ignore the stop signs. You see that kind of stuff, then you got to say, I don't know if this is a guy for us. I haven't heard any of that stuff with him at USC. I've heard none of that. Okay. So I don't know that to be the case. But again, they've got the resources to vet him and to make sure that doesn't exist. So again, we'll see. I trust that this new group is going to do their due diligence. I never trusted the old group to do their due diligence. That's how you end up with Darius Geis. That's how you end up with Sua Cravens. They never did their due diligence. This is not that group. So I'm not worried about that. 16 Devil Doc writes, I still believe in Howell. We need to give him a fresh start and build the line around him. I don't want to give up any draft capital. In fact, I'd rather trade down, but only a couple picks. That way we can still get one of the top tackles and still get additional picks for this year and next. I don't subscribe to the theory of more darts for the dartboard, right? More like that's the Seattle Seahawks model. That's the Minnesota Vikings model with Rick Spielman as their GM. Give me more darts. I liken it to, all right, you got more darts, but the tip of those darts are dull. All right. They're duller than the sharp darts. Like, give me 7 sharp darts versus 13 dull darts. Yeah, you get more opportunities to throw it at the dartboard, and they may stick. But I know the sharp ones are gonna stick. Give me more. Let me get those 7 sharp darts. A lot of you want 13 dull darts. Or you want 11 dull darts and 2 sharp ones. I've said this before and I'll say it again. One of the biggest issues with the Rivera era was the lack of elite talent that they brought in to the building. Same shit we dealt with Bruce Allen. When he was shopping on the clearance rack in the back of the store for all the pink tags that he could get his hands on and was excited about it. The Chris Cullivers, and, all of the guys that he was excited about getting that didn't make a damn difference here. I want elite level talent. So I'm not interested. We got enough picks, man. We got 5 in the top 100. I'm not interested in trading back. I'm really not. As a matter of fact, I'd be more interested if they saw a guy that they were enamored with the back end of the first round or, mid portion of the second round. I'd be more interested in them packaging up picks and moving up than them moving back. If you tell me that, hey, the real value in this draft is rounds 3 through 5, okay, fine. And you want to trade one of those second rounders back a bit and pick up some more draft capital in the mid rounds, fine. But personally, I'm trying to get as much elite stuff as we can get our hands on. Viscount writes, damn it, you told me how to say that. You told me how to pronounce that, and I still effed it up. I'm sorry. I forgot. I ain't gonna even hold you. Personally, Lou, I feel we need to stick with Sam another year. Hopefully the new team can rebuild his confidence and he can get back to playing the kind of ball we saw during the first half of the season. Invest heavily on the O-line, maybe trade back a few spots to pick up draft capital and draft one of the top 2 tackles, add a guard and a center in the first 5 picks. Also need an edge, tight end, linebackers, wide receiver, running back, etc., etc. Ultimately, I will be behind the new GM/head coach, and whatever they decide will work for me. Not sure if it's nostalgia, but I really want to be outside. That said, I am probably in the Drake May camp if they decide to move on from Sam. So he was a part of the 8%ers for Drake May. And again, I don't have a problem with you trading back. How far back are we talking? How far back are we talking? Because theoretically speaking, are you willing to do business with the Giants? Because the Giants could end up with the 5th pick in the draft. You could say, we're not taking a quarterback at 2. Hey, New York, you interested in coming up here? Because the Patriots are right behind us and they are taking a quarterback. And they could say, yeah, you're damn right we're interested. And you can move back to 5 and you can still get the number 1 tackle in the draft. Because if it goes that way, Bears quarterback, Giants quarterback, Patriots quarterback, Cardinals wide receiver, Washington tackle. It could go that way if you wanted to, and you pick up a ton of draft capital by moving back, 3 spots. But are you willing to do that with the team in the division, et cetera, et cetera? I'm fine with that. If you're not going to draft a quarterback and the goal is to get one of the top tackles and you can still get that top tackle and move back and acquire more picks, I'm all for it. What I'm not interested in is you not taking a quarterback and moving back to, say, 8 or 9. Right? And I don't know who's going to end up with the 8th or 9th pick. I don't care about who's that far back. It's not us. Okay. So I'm not interested in who's there now, but there could be a team like Atlanta, and those teams are going to be way further back, like 14, 15, 16 Raiders. All those teams are going to be 14, 15, 16 in that neighborhood. I'm not interested in that. Not interested in moving back. That's where we normally are after a Rivera season, when we Rivera and go 7-10. That's where we usually are, somewhere in the middle of the first round. I'm not interested in going back there. We sucked for a reason to get to where we are. We earned the 2nd pick in the draft. We have the longest losing streak in the NFL right now. We earned the 2nd pick. I'm trying to use it. DM writes, going up to get Williams would be great, but the cost to me is not worth it. I voted stick with Sam, as new coaches in O-line would be the best realistic option. It's going to cost a lot. Like I saw on socials, somebody having a deal where Washington moved up to 1 and Washington gave away a 2nd this year, a 3rd next year, in like a fourth or something. And I'm like, bro, that shit isn't getting it done. What kind of delusion is that? You really think the Bears are moving off the number 1 overall pick for you to come get a quarterback and to get a bunch of, a couple of day 2 picks and a day 3 pick? Yeah, right. You gotta go wash your face and get your mind right. They're not moving out of the number 1 spot without a first round pick. And I'm not talking about swapping first rounders. That's not netting them an additional first round pick. They're going to net an additional first round pick. There's no way if I'm the Bears, I'm moving out of the first spot. When they're first of all, if they decide to trade the number 1 overall pick, there are going to be multiple teams bidding to get up to number 1. Understand that. Washington isn't the only team interested in getting the 1. So your little 2nd and 3rd and 5th, that ain't moving the needle. I'm just going to pick up the phone and call New England. Hey, these boys over here tripping. What you got? They go, hey, I got a first for you. Bet. All right, I'm going to call you back. Hey, Giants, New England got a first round of this year. A first round of next year and a 3rd round of this year. What you talking about? And then you can go back to Washington. Hey, this is my last time coming back to you. All right. Because I ain't got time for the foolishness. Straight up. Giants are willing to give me a first next year, a 2nd this year. They got 2 of them, a 2nd this year, and they're willing to give me a 2nd next year. What you trying to do? Right? Like, that's how this is going to go. Ain't no way the Bears are going to say on the first offer to them, and it doesn't include a first round pick next year, that they're going to say yes. Yeah, right. Come on now. Wake up. You wouldn't do that if that were you. People stay trying to lowball somebody when it's them trying to get over. But just put yourself in that position. Would you do a deal that didn't include a first round of next year? You know the answer to that. So it's going to cost. In DM's case, he's not willing to pay the cost. Or as a wise man once said, I ain't willing to pay the 5. I'm not paying the 5. Okay, I got you. Nate Mack says, Howell is the man, needs new coaching. I ain't mad at that. Matter of fact, as we go down this list, I might as well just hit these on the way down, right? There's no sense in reading these and not blessing everybody that blessed me, right? Even if I don't agree with the comment, I appreciate you for commenting nonetheless. So I'm going to go ahead and just hit that thing all the way down as we go. Elijah Harrison. I would draft a quarterback if I saw him as a Justin Herbert or a Tua Tagovailoa type prospect. And obviously I would draft a Mahomes, Burrow, Allen prospect. But otherwise, I'm keeping Howell. And I don't know enough about these quarterbacks to know if they are those guys or not yet. I get that. I feel that. That one hits me at my core, right? Because that's what I've been pretty much saying this entire time, up until the last, 6 games where Sam is kind of gone off the rails a bit. That's pretty much what I was saying. Like, unless you're showing me a guy that's got a chance to come in here and be a league MVP type quarterback, I'm not moving on from Sam. Like, and that's kind of how I feel. And I don't know if I see that in any of these dudes other than Caleb Williams, to be honest with you. Maybe Michael Penix, but again, he scares the shit out of me. I mean, I got PTSD. You can't bring me the dude that has injury issues and concerns. Robert Griffin III had those, right? We saw what happened to him. Like, I don't want to hear this shit about, oh, that was X amount of years ago. I don't give a shit. Robert Griffin III had a torn ACL or 2 before we got to him. And what happened? His shit fell the hell apart. Obviously, there was a brutal hit that facilitated that, and he came back probably a little bit sooner than he was supposed to. But look, that's no here nor there, right? I'm with you, Elijah. I hear you loud and clear, man. Nobody seems to consider if this is Aries. No one seems to consider if we beef up the O-line and actually run the ball more, how much that would benefit Howell and the receivers, draft tackles. I think a lot of us have talked about that. We just assumed that EB understood that concept, but clearly he just blames everything on Andy Reid. Oh man, blame it on Andy Reid. Why I don't run? No, I'm blaming you. I'm blaming your ass for not running the ball. You your own man. Don't talk to me about Andy Reid. Andy Reid is the third winningest coach in NFL history, or whatever, fourth behind Belichick, Don Shula, and I don't know, somebody else. He's like in the top 5 or top 7 of the winningest coaches in the NFL's history. Don't tell me what Andy Reid has done. You tell me what you about. Anyway. Red Boy writes, I think we should take Daniels. He is 6'4", has a great arm, and he's fast as hell. I really don't think we should trade up. Need all the draft capital we can get. I don't think Jaden Daniels has a great arm. I don't. He is 6'4". That is accurate. And I don't know if he's fast as hell, but I do know he's fast. He's plenty fast. You don't have to be fast as hell to be. Patrick Mahomes isn't fast as hell. He's plenty fast, though. Plenty fast. I got a lot more tape to break down on Jaden Daniels, but I'm not blown away. I can just tell you that. My initial thought on him is not blown away. But we'll see. Bernard Parker writes, would love Caleb, but don't want to give up high draft capital for him. If we compare John Allen and 2 late-round picks, I'm open to trade up, but that's probably not enough. Okay, I'm glad you clarified that, because that is definitely not enough, Bernard. Definitely not enough. Truth be told, imagine being the Chicago GM right now. You could trade the 1 for Washington's 3, then trade the 3 and probably still be in the top 10 with multiple first and second rounders the next 2 years or more and still have the QB of the future. That's what I was talking about today. Literally. You could finesse it to where you're talking about still being in the top 10. I'm talking about still being in the top 3. You could finesse 1 to 2, right? Say Washington and New England. And I matter of fact, just go watch the Justin Fields video, the QB conundrum video. I broke that down already. You could just put it this way. You can finesse your way into number 3 by trading from 1 to 2 and then 2 to 3. Caps fan writes, Caleb is a diva. I don't know that to be the case. I can't say that. Can't say that. And I hate calling him a grown-ass man a diva. I don't like that. But I do know that he is a product of the environment that a lot of these young kids have grown up in, where they're coddled and they're told they're the man since they were 12 years old, going to all these camps and, the 7-on-7s and all of that stuff. And so, yeah, transfer portal. You don't have to stay and stick it out. You don't like something, somebody tells you you're not starting. All right, I'm transferred. Like, these kids don't have the backbone that you used to have to get to the highest levels. You get dudes that have transferred 5-6 times. Oh, I'm not starting. I'm out. He's a part of that culture. Again, that doesn't make him, a diva, as some people like to call them, or difficult to deal with. It just means that's the mentality, and you have to adjust as a coach. Long Lost Lord writes, it would take hella capital, but I believe moving up to get Caleb is doable. I also believe it would be worth to do so. Now, will the next regime make that decision is the real question. We'll see. Keep in mind, too, when we're reading these comments, as you can see, a lot of them say 6 days ago, because I put this poll out a week ago. Understand that we were at number 3 when this poll was posted. And then by kickoff of the game on Sunday last week, we were 4. And by game's end, we were 2. So things have changed dramatically in 6 days' time. So it still would take a lot to get up from 2 to 1, just so we're clear, but not as much as it would from 3 or 4. The Big Dub Network writes, shout out to everyone choosing option A. You have zero commitment issues. He's talking to me as well. Look, we've been battered and bruised, and I've heard some people on each side of the argument, and I'm not knocking either side. One side is like, you've been down bad so long at the quarterback position that anything that looks remotely good to you, you're jumping at it, right? And I told you guys that about Ryan Fitzpatrick. I'm like, we've been bad for so long at the quarterback position that if they feed us dog food, you're starving so bad, you'll gobble it up. That's what I said to people who thought that Ryan Fitzpatrick was going to lead this team to anything in 2021. That same premise for some applies here with Sam, right? I can't argue with you about that. You're not wrong. I don't agree with you that it's as bad as you think, but are we settling? Maybe we're settling. Maybe. Or maybe we're just being patient. It just depends on what lens you're looking at it from. One says you're settling and you're crazy and he sucks, you can do better. And the other camp is saying, no, I'm being patient because I see the talent. And I know there's a big payoff at the end of this. I just got to wait for it. So it's two sides. Same coin. It's just two different sides. Zach Attack writes, if you can't get a generational talent at quarterback that can make up for the other roster deficiencies, then it's better to have a strong overall roster and above average to very good quarterback. Nothing you said there is false. Right? Nothing you said there is false. Red Wings 01 writes, here's the deal. If EV sticks around as head coach, then it makes sense to go out and trade up for Caleb Williams. There are questions about his mental makeup, but talent and play style wise, he's the closest thing we've seen to Pat Mahomes. We only have to trade up 2 or 3 spots, which that's not the case anymore. But when this was written, that was the case. But I know that that's a carrot the Bears would love to hold over us. I'd be okay with sending a second or a later third along with a first swap, but no more. Then you're not looking to get this done. Caleb is the hometown kid and an elite prospect, but then again, so was Chase Young, and look how that turned out. That should have no bearing on our future GM's decision. Caleb is the only guy I'd move on from Hal for, even if May and Daniels turn out to be better than Sam. Are they so much better that they're worth passing up an elite prospect at another position of need for? If you still want a hometown product, then Olu Fasanu is the way to go. He went to high school with Caleb Williams and is, in my opinion, the best tackle prospect in this draft. There's also Joe Alt if he's your cup of tea. There are other guys like Brock Bowers, a plethora of edge rushers, and possibly even Marvin Harrison Jr., who will be on the board for us. We have a ton of draft capital to use this year to kick off a rebuild around Sam or another future quarterback if we get the right GM and head coach in the building. I'd personally stick it out with Sam for one more year and rebuild this roster, give him a legit chance to show if he can grow as a player with better supporting cast. If you want to bring in a young guy with upside to compete, you can still draft a guy like Quinn Ewers or J.J. McCarthy in the 2nd or 3rd round. There's a lot to chew on there. I'll just say that a lot of this I agree with. But me and Red Wings are usually in lockstep. There are certain times where we disagree here or there, but for the most part, we usually see eye to eye, and I agree with most of what he said here. The only thing that I can assure you is that you're not getting up to number 1 with a couple of day 2 picks and a first and a swap. Like, that's not gonna get it done. I can assure you of that. And even to the point where if you wanted to bring in another young quarterback, you could. I told you it's a deep quarterback draft class. assuming that JJ McCarthy comes out, like I've heard he's going back, especially if they don't win the national championship, he'll probably go back to school and try to chase that. Now, I would assume that Harbaugh not being there, because I think Harbaugh's leaving for the NFL, that may influence his decision to come back or not. But there'll be some other options. It's a lot to digest, and this group, whomever they decide to hire, is going to have a lot to comb through and a lot of decisions to make. It's going to be fascinating. Dustin writes, I would take Caleb if he's there at 3. I would under no circumstances trade up for anyone. We're so bad. It makes no sense to be trading picks away at this point. You don't trade away picks when you're in rebuild mode. You do if you think you can find the quarterback. He's not falling to 3, though. Biggie Steve writes, I'm drafting Caleb Williams and keeping Sam Howell as a backup. So if something goes wrong with Caleb, we have a strong backup in Sam. Stud Muffin, keep Howell another year, get one of the top 3 quarterbacks in the draft, but I don't want to give up draft capital to get one. Whomever is there, take him. It's got to be more than just, hey, grab one of these dudes. I don't care which one, just grab one. It's got to be more than that, right? It's got to be way more than that. Metaphor writes, Howell is the path. Caleb is a head case like no other. Again, we can't confirm nor deny that, but we can't confirm that. I don't like spreading slanderous information about people and rumors. I can tell you this. I haven't loved everything that I've seen. But you, of all people, Metaphor, you're still a Robert Griffin III defender, right? You're a stan. I'm shocked that you feel the way that you do about Caleb. And if it's Daniels or Knicks, those guys are second rounders. Draft one of them to sit. Daniels is not going to be drafted in the second round. He's going in the top 5. I can assure you of that. Knicks, on the other hand, I think will be a second round pick. Antonio Logan writes, I'm still down with Howe. Give him a line, a run game, a tight end, and an offensive play call that wants to help him be successful. Then he will be good. I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree with that assessment at all. And we'll see if that is, in fact, the route that they decide to take. I do not see that as the route that they decide to take. But it is a route that they could decide to take. Oh, let me hit this on that comment. Clayton Cook. We could draft a quarterback, have him drop back 40 times a game like Howe, or we could draft the best non-quarterback. We need new coaches, first and foremost, pass run balance. Cook Boy says, keep Sam, draft one of the top 2 tackles in the first, top 5 offensive guard in the second, and try to move back into the first for another offensive guard. We don't even need that many offensive linemen. Now, I'm not opposed to drafting, more depth and more guys, but again, we've gone through this exercise, right? Now, I don't know what the new group is going to do, but I'd like to think that with the free agent dollars that we do have, they're going to go out and spend some of it on the offensive line, on some cheap labor, right? Not at tackle, though. I think they're going to draft, a tackle, whether it's in the first or the second round. They're going to spend, I think, one of their first 2-round picks. They've got 3 of them on a tackle. And so it wouldn't shock me if they went quarterback first round and then the first pick in the second round that they have. And, all this winning the Bears are doing is effing up that second round pick, right? Our second rounder is still going to be high as a bitch, so it doesn't matter. We'll have like the second pick of the second round. So it's still going to be pretty high, but the Bears were supposed to be right there. Now they went on this crazy win streak, and that shit's in the 40s now, right? The Bears, I think, are drafting 10th last time I checked. So that would put our pick in the second round at like 42. but that's nor here nor there. Bottom line is, I think they're going to draft a tackle. You could bring back Cornelius Lucas. We got Sam Cosmi. You drafted Ricky Stromberg. I think you need to find out what he can do. And then you just need a left guard if you draft a tackle. And I think they could potentially sign a left guard in free agency. And voila, your new and improved offensive line. Just like that. Or you could draft a tackle in the second round, come back and draft another tackle in the third round. And there go your 2 starting tackles right there. Right? Who knows? But I don't know if we need like 2 guards, a tackle in the first 5 picks. I don't see that happening, especially when Sam Cosmi is already here. You don't need 2 guards. You just need 1. Now, again, I'm not opposed to drafting another guard in the 6th round to develop. He says, or trade draft picks for a top edge or a linebacker. Either way, we need 2 top offensive linemen. Banga writes, I like Sam, but if Williams is there, you take him. Trade Sam to some team to help the team get better. We have a lot of holes to fill on this team, but at the same time, don't jump out the window to get anyone else because Sam will get better. We'll see what happens. Dylan Zipperer writes, I would draft Caleb at 3, but not trade up for him. Well, you don't want Caleb then. Super duper DB Goat writes, I get the hype for Caleb, but my gut tells me he won't be what they're projecting in the pros. Something tells me that you're right. You know, and here's my rationale. I'll save it. We'll talk about that. We got a lot of time to talk about that. True Believer KC says, how with the new OC? Okay. John Donnie writes, I honestly have run dry. They ruin every quarterback they touch. RG3, Haskins, Ramsey, Campbell, Schuler, Howe. Get rid of decent ones like Green, Johnson, Farrat, Cousins, Heineke, Humphreys, or just flat out get them killed like Theismann, Smith, Robert Griffin III, or acquire trash like McNabb, Wentz, George, Grossman, Keenum, Sanchez. I give up. I hope we figure it out, but insanity is doing the same things and expecting different results. I hope Sam gets dealt to McVay in the Rams or Carroll in Seattle, where he gets a chance with a real team / coach / OC. What these incompetent morons did to him here is criminal. He needs a fresh start. I think Williams will decline coming here like Eli did to San Diego or Elway in Indy. If ever a quarterback would be justified to say hell no to being drafted to a team, it has to be this fiasco. I disagree with the last part. Everything else, you were spot on, right? He wants to come home. He would love to play for this team. I don't think he would decline coming here, but that's a good comment there. How many more of these? We got a ton of these left, I think. Yeah, we're not going through all of these, dude. So I'll grab a few more and we'll get out of here. I'm going to get to all of the ones that who were 6 days ago. That's what we'll do. Because all the ones we've read have been from 6 days ago. All of these are from 6 days ago. We can't do that. We'll be here all night. I'll just grab a couple more and we'll get out of here. We'll move on. Anyway. Telly Green writes, stick with Sam and build around him. Also change the coaching staff. Jason Rogers says, I'm fine with keeping or moving off of Sam. Pretty much you're saying you're cool with whatever the GM decides, which I think a lot of us feel like that. Malik Taylor writes, if we draft a quarterback, I'd rather get one flying under the radar that's efficient in later rounds, a la Brock Purdy type. Those are hard to find, though, Malik. Like, those don't you don't think if the Brock Purdy types were just sitting there every year that every team wouldn't have a quarterback right now? Teams try to find Brock Purdy's. They those are rare, man. And that was a perfect fit for the scheme and everything. Like, those aren't just growing on trees. Swift Baby says, keep Sam and build around him, because who's to say that Caleb Williams is the same player in the NFL as he has been in college? Mr. CN173 says, can we give Jacoby Brissett a chance and draft the left tackle? No. The answer is no. Can't do that. Ink Pusher writes, draft Drake, let Hal cook under some real coaching and play calling. If you draft Drake, Sam's not cooking anything but meals for the starting quarterback. So you can't have both. Kino from the 7-5 writes, give me Hal any day, twice on Sunday. People saying it's over for Sam act like these head coaches start their evaluation at week 11. Sam has more than enough film to build from, and if we can see EB and Ron's fault, I know damn well a Ben Johnson will see it. Yes, the new head coach can draft his guy, or draft a quarterback in the later rounds. Stick with Hal for another year, build around the quarterback with proven NFL talent. I like that comment. But again, you're asking a lot of a new GM, coach, et cetera, to come in here with the number 2, potentially the number 2 overall pick, and just pass with what is supposed to be a quarterback-rich draft. You're asking them to pass. I don't know if that's fair. Stay with Sam. John Wheatstone writes, stay with Sam and reassess in 25. I like Marvin Harrison and a vet O-lineman in free agency. Must get linebackers. Bob Person writes, draft the premium left tackle first, tight end, edge rusher, guard, center, middle linebacker, and right tackle. So he's avoiding quarterback altogether. Riker Cordova writes, I truly believe we can get Caleb Williams because the Bears will keep Justin Fields and the Cardinals will take Marvin Harrison Jr. Now, that was when we were in 3rd. And again, if the Bears are, again, you have to understand, if the Bears aren't moving on from Fields, they're not staying at 1. It doesn't make any sense for them to hold that pick hostage and not maximize the value of that pick, if that makes any sense. If you're going to draft Marvin Harrison Jr. anyway, you can move back 2 or 3 picks and still get him. Why wouldn't you do that? That's what they're going to do. Every team behind them currently needs a quarterback, except for Arizona. So if you are scared of Arizona getting Marvin Harrison Jr., all you got to do is trade to number 3 in front of them, right? Or you just trade to number 2, trade 1 pick back. Either way, if you're like, I'm not doing business with anybody behind Arizona because they're going to take the guy that I want, then just do business with the 2 teams behind you. Either way, they're not staying at 1. They're not staying at 1. And drafting a quarterback, a non-quarterback. Like, that's not happening. JD the GOAT, or JD a GOAT. Keep Sam, put that offseason money on defense and O-line. Not trying to hear let's develop him because we already got a good quarterback and he's a cheaper option. I mean, you draft a young quarterback, he's going to be cheap too. And you're just resetting the, rookie contract clock. remember, Sam doesn't have a 5th-year option. He wasn't a first-round pick. So theoretically speaking, you only got 2 more years of Sam on a rookie deal. Brian writes, Drake May's size is intriguing at 6'4", can see over the line. That can't be the only redeeming quality that you love. Obviously, May has more than just his size, but that is something that does intrigue me with him and Jaden Daniels and some of the bigger quarterbacks. I would like a bigger quarterback, but that is not a necessity, as I've mentioned already. Got any grapes? This will be the last one, and we'll get out of here. What it would cost Washington to move up and draft a talented, albeit emotionally immature kid would mortgage their future. It would look like 2012 and the subsequent years all over again. What I encourage you guys to do, and I know this is tough, and I'm not going to, preach to you, is to just give the new group a chance. We have PTSD, and rightfully so. And if the same group was still here, Snyder, I would tell you that you're absolutely right. And why would anything be different? But understanding that we're going to do things the right way, and it's new. Just give it a chance first before you just jump to it's going to be like this all over again. Let's just see what it turns out to be first. Anyway, all right. We'd be here all night if I read all of those. But I appreciate you guys commenting, and all the ones that we didn't get to. I apologize, but I truly do appreciate each and every single one of you. So let's get to social media maneuvers. You guys know how this works. Get to the comment section, read what you guys have to say, react to it, and then we will get out of here. Shout out to the mob. Y'all know what it is. Stand up. We in the building. Also, big shout out, massive shout out to all my Patreon supporters that you see scrolling across the bottom of the screen. Ben, Carlton, Edward, Brian, Walter, Al, etc., Fred. Can't thank you guys enough. Matter of fact, we're going to wait till all of them go across. Leonard, and acknowledge every single one of you. I really do appreciate all 13 of you. Bradley, Roche, and Ty. Thank you so much for the support. And Brandon, Al, Daryl, Ben, Carlton, Edward, Brian, Walter, Fred, Leonard, Bradley, and Ty. Shout out to my Patreon supporters as well. So with that said, let's get to the brass tacks of business and get to the comment section. We start with Robert Best. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, Robert. Double up. Thank you for doubling up, Robert, who writes, Fields for a 3rd rounder and draft Harrison Jr. You could do that. You could do that. But would you do that? You could do that. And again, this is the thing that you have to understand. We'll know what direction they're going in by the time we get to the draft. If they haven't done next to anything along the offensive line, but they traded for Justin Fields, then you have to assume that they're going after the tackle. Now, again, we were told, and we'll have a better handle of this over the next 2 months or so, but we've been told that this is a deep tackle draft. That's cool, but as we all know, tackles go fast. They're on a first come, first serve basis. And teams generally don't wait. They reach up and they grab their tackle that they need and they get out of the way, right? So we could see the first 4 picks come and go and no tackle gets selected. And then just like that, the first one goes and then the next 5 out of 12 picks are tackles. That's how the shit works a lot of times. Once they start, they don't stop till all the good ones are gone. So we'll see. We'll see how this goes. But yes, you trade, if you trade a 3rd round pick for Justin Fields, you still be in a position to draft Marvin Harrison Jr. If he declares for the draft, he'd still be available. Technically speaking. CJ Shoots photo. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, yo, Louie T, Happy New Year. Likewise, CJ. Is it possible head coach Ben Johnson, North Carolina, drafts Drake May, North Carolina, QB2 Sam Howell, North Carolina, hashtag NHO, hashtag HTTR? I mean, theoretically speaking, sure. All he has to make that come to fruition, all he has to do is draft Drake May. Like everything else is already here. But I don't think the whole North Carolina angle has anything to do with any of that. I don't know if Ben Johnson himself went to the University of North Carolina and graduated from there or not. I just know he's from North Carolina, right? We do know that. But I don't think that matters at all. What does matter is what he thinks about the prospect and how he feels that prospect would fit in his scheme. That's what matters most. So I don't know if that'll have any bearing on the decision-making process, where they're from. Jay Breadman. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Writes, what up, Lou? What's up, Jay? Happy New Year. You and yours, likewise. Says, I might sound crazy, but I still believe Sam can cook. We have enough capital to build. You don't sound crazy to me, right? It's not me you sound crazy to. It's those out there that don't believe in Sam that you sound crazy to. What would be crazy is to just disregard a quarterback if you believe in the other guys because you don't want to spend the draft capital or whatever. Like, that's crazy. You have to consider all options. If you're drafting as high as Washington is drafting, you have to consider every single option, and quarterback has got to be the thing that you look at first. It has to be. Now, whether you go that route or not remains to be seen, but that is the first thing that you should be thinking about if you're Washington and you're drafting in the top 3, which right now seems to be a very good possibility. Again, barring a win and some sort of catastrophe in week 18, we're going to be in the top 3. Whether it's 2 or 3 remains to be seen. Duncan Wright, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, remember when we tanked against the Giants so you could make the playoffs? Now the bill has come due. You better beat the Cowboys. You guys owe us. We don't owe y'all shit. Okay. We ain't, look, what y'all did ain't got nothing to do with us. There's no bearing, no impact on us. It's funny that Eagles fans like to bring that up. Y'all were going to lose that game anyway. Jalen Hurts was stinking it up. And even if he would have stayed in the game, he was going to continue to stink it up. We were going to win that game. You just made it easier on us by putting in Nate Sudfeld. But we were going to win that game anyway. We don't owe you a damn thing. Benjamin Bellamy, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, my guy Benjamin. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Writes, thank you for being a member of the MOBB as well. Anybody that doesn't want to draft Caleb or May isn't trying to win. Simple as that. That's not true. Again, everybody has a different way of going about how they think things should be done. But it doesn't mean that they don't want to win. They just see a different path to achieving the same goal that you want to achieve, which is winning. Everybody wants to win. Like, I don't think we doubt that. Everybody just has different ways of going about how to achieve that. So, we've read comments of people who love Drake May, who think he's the guy, right? There's other people that think Jaden Daniels is the guy. I saw comments like my guy Redskins Review, shout out to my guy Redskins Review, who said draft Bo Nix. Like, that's the guy he wants, right? People are going to be all over the place. We all want to win. We just see a different path to getting there. If you still believe in Sam, that doesn't mean you don't want to win. You just think Sam has the tools and he's got something that none of these young quarterbacks have, NFL experience. Whether that should be enough to sway you, again, that's debatable. Christopher McLaughlin, my guy Chris, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Chris writes, hey, Lou, hope all is well with you and the family. Likewise, as always, likewise. We don't have an identity. We don't have an identity on this team. We have relied on the defense for years, and it was subpar this year. Both sides need dramatic work. What is our backbone besides wide receivers? That is a great question. Running back, I think, is a position that we can currently lean on now. Antonio Gibson will probably be gone at season's end, and you'll need to do something about that. But I think Chris Rodriguez has shown us enough to be at least a viable, backup, physical in between the tackles runner. I haven't seen a lot from him. And if the next regime came in here and drafted 2 running backs and Rodriguez didn't make the team, I wouldn't trip off of that either, right? But one thing's for sure, Brian Robinson Jr. is a keeper. He was a gem that we unearthed in the 3rd round. And I don't know if that trade is going to bear the fruit that we all thought it was going to when we started talking about how that trade back in 2022 in the 1st round netted us Jahan Dotson and Cole Turner and Brian Robinson and Sam Howell, and how that was going to be the foundation of what was going to turn this organization around. It may not be all of that, but we still got Brian Robinson Jr. out of it. Like, we were going to get Jahan out, like, that's not a big get. Like, because Jahan, we had a 1st round pick. We were going to get, Jahan Dotson. We just moved back and selected him. But the real gems were supposed to be Sam, Cole, and Brian Robinson. I don't know if those other 2 are going to pan out, but Brian Robinson already has shown that he can get it done in this league. So I'd say running back right now is a position that I feel really good about when healthy. We need a speed back, though. We need a speed guy. I like what we already have there. And honestly, that's it, bro. On the and then obviously right now, defensive tackle is a good position for us, but that's subject to change because I think we're trading Jonathan Allen, but I've already told you that before already. We don't have an identity, as you mentioned. Let's hope that starts to shift this year with the regime change and the new GM coming in here and establishing what he's looking for in a Washington football player. Duncan Wright. Double up. Thank you for doubling up, who writes, sadness the last week of the regular season. It's been real, Louie. In the way my team is playing, I'll be sitting next to you on the couch in a week later. Make me some popcorn, my main man. Oh, I'm going to have it ready for you and Dallas. I'll be passing it back, and Giants and us will be passing it back and forth. But I'll make sure. You just let me know how many butters you need. I got you, bro. You know what it is. Video channel. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, how high does Penix stock rise if he beats Michigan and plays extremely well? Well, it's already significantly taken a sharp leap with the performance in the semifinals of the playoffs versus Texas. So a win over Michigan on that stage, and he plays like he did in the first half, or just plays well like he's done most of the season. Yeah, I think he's going to play his way into the first round and potentially into the top half of the first round. Again, what's going to be important for him, and I've done a quarterback conundrum on him already, right? But what's going to be key for him is the medicals. The combine is going to be huge for him. These individual meetings with these teams where the medical staff of these teams will get their hands on him and test him out. And that's going to be what ultimately decides whether this guy's a first-round pick or not. Because the play on the field suggests that he's a first-round pick, to me. It's the medical. It's the shoulder injuries. It's the 2 ACL tears. Like, those are the things that are going to give people pause. Christopher McLaughlin, my guy, Chris. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Chris writes, hey, Lou, I get picking second that QB is likely the pick. Given how another season with the new head coach and OC takes a lot of the doubt out of things if they go poorly for the long term. Also, what is the ceiling with Terry having Ben Johnson as head coach? Just look at Amon-Ra St. Brown. What does he have, 111 catches this year or some craziness like that? We still got a week to go. I mean, Terry could only dream about having 100-plus catches. Terry's best year was what, 93 catches or something like that? Understand what an offensive coordinator like Ben Johnson would do for a guy like Terry McLaurin. And to me, Amon-Ra St. Brown and Terry McLaurin's skill sets are very similar. Terry's just faster than he is. But they're very similar skill sets. I think Ben Johnson would do wonders for a guy like Terry McLaurin. Wonders. Highly unlikely that Sam's going to get another opportunity. Just off the strength of where we're picking. I would give it more credence and I said all Sam needed to do was win a game. He didn't do it. It makes it extremely tough for the next group to come in here and not pick a quarterback. CJ Shoots photo. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, with Jay Fields, you know what you've got. Some NFL experience. Looks to be improving. Draft rookie could be a total bust. Risky. I would trade our third for Justin Fields, but also means I can trade back from number 2 and get a left tackle and picks. You could do that. You can get your third-round pick right on back. And then some, right? Probably get you a first-round pick next year. You trade back with the Giants, or you threaten New England, and you say, hey, I got the Giants on the phone right now. These boys are starving to get up here to number 2. Okay. Now, what you can do is you can hand over 3, hand over your first next year, and give me back my third I just gave to the Bears, and we call it even, baby. What do you say? And just like that, you got the third-round pick back. You got a first round of next year, and you're still getting that tackle we just talked about. So, yeah, possibilities change if you go the Fields route. Again, so many options that could arise this offseason. That's why it's going to be a fun offseason for sure. Interesting to say the least. And important. It's going to be both. CJ Shoots photo. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Writes, too pricey to move up to number 2 from 2 to 1. If rookie go with May, it's going to be pricey. It's going to cost. Right? There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But understand that the price doesn't matter if you truly believe in the prospect. If you think that Caleb Williams is the next Patrick Mahomes, then you shouldn't care about the price. That shouldn't matter to you. Now, again, is he the next Patrick Mahomes? Probably not. But if you think he's got a chance to be that, and in your heart of hearts, that's who you project him to be, then what are we talking about? What are we talking about? Red Wings 01. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, writing this before you read the comment, I would be okay with sending our next year's first if we had to trade up for Williams, but replace that second with a fourth. I don't think that'll get it done. The conversation starts with giving up your first rounder next year. There's no way the Bears are moving off the spot without it. So that to me is a non-starter. If you're not including your first round pick, we don't even it's dial tone, right? So here's what you call up the Bears and you say, hey man, heard you were interested in moving off of one. So here's what I got. I got next year's second. Hello? Like, they gone, bro. The conversation starts with next year's first, and then we go from there. Again, this is what you got to take into consideration. And you might say, look, I got to draw a line in the sand somewhere. If you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. I get it. But understand that we're not the only ones interested. It'd be one thing if we were bidding against ourselves. Then you could draw a hard line in the sand and say, hey, here's what I'm offering, take it or leave it. Like, that's essentially what the Jets were doing with the Packers. There was no other suitors. Rodgers made it abundantly clear, I'm only going to the Jets. So at this point, you don't have a lot of leverage, right? That's not the case here. We're interested. New England's going to be interested. The Giants are going to be interested. Depending on how far back the Bears are willing to go, the Raiders will be interested. The Falcons will be interested, right? Like, there'll be suitors. Now, I'm assuming they don't want to go that far back, but it's enough teams in the top 5 that they can pit them against one another and push the price up. It's going to cost. May cost you a lot, may cost you a little, but it's going to cost. Zacchaeus Maggette III, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. He writes, as bad as I want Terry to get 1,000 yards, it's pretty slim with Sam starting, unfortunately. He probably would have gotten it last week if Brissett had started. Maybe. At the way that Jacoby was getting it to him, I don't know if I can disagree with that or not. Sam got it to him on a deep ball, though. You know, I don't know if any more of those opportunities arose in the game and Sam just didn't see it or whatever, but he did get it to him once, and he did get him a back shoulder touchdown, right? But I think he's going to get him 54 yards. Sam has to know, and he has to go out of his way to get Terry 54 yards. Simple as that. The Cowboys are going to play man coverage. They're going to give him opportunities, get Terry the football, get him 54 yards, and then you can do whatever the hell you want to do after that. 16 Devil Dot. Thank you for being a member for 28 months. Who writes, what up, Lou? What's up, 16 Devil Dot? Hope you and the fam are doing well. We are. Likewise. Feels like it's been a little while, too. Says, not sure we're losing. I heard Dallas is flying in their heated benches. Laughing my ass off. I still believe in NHO, but if it isn't him, MPJ is intriguing in the second. I don't know if he's going to be there in the second. You know, when this process first began, he was a second round pick, and he still might be a second round pick. He could turn out to be the Will Levis of this year's draft. People are going to talk him up. If he wins the national championship, people are going to push him into the first round. People are going to push him into the first half of the first round. That's what we did with Will Levis. I said all along, Will Levis is a second round pick, and everybody started talking this kid up, and then he went to the combine, and he had this strong arm, and then he was putting mayo in his coffee, and next thing you know, this guy's shredded, and he has a great pro day and checks off all these boxes, yada, yada, yada. And what happened? He still went in the second round. After people were saying he could go number 1 overall. There was a rumor a week and a half before the draft that that the Panthers were considering Will Levis. And I was like, yeah, right. You got to be shitting me. And they were. The difference is Michael Penix Jr. will have a body of work that will speak to being a first-round pick. Will Levis did not have a body of work. The inconsistency was enough that you said, I'm good. Yeah, second-round pick for that kid. Michael Penix Jr. was successful at Indiana, but that was derailed by injuries. Okay. Went to Washington, stayed healthy for 2 years. And right now he's a combined 25-2 over those 2 seasons and has a chance to go 15-0, finish his career in Washington 26-2 with a national championship and an undefeated season. That changes everything. I mean, he's already made a statement. You win the national championship. This is a big test. That Michigan defense is by far and away the best he's seen in his collegiate career. He goes out and he plays well against that unit. That may turn some more heads. You're not getting him in the second round. I don't think. And again, the medicals will tell the story. If the medicals check out, he'll be a first round pick. If they don't, he'll go in the second round. Possibly the third. Jado, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB who writes, what up, Lou? What would you do with the second pick? Again, it all comes down to the homework that has been done. And this is the thing, as fans, we don't have, the resources for it, which is to talk to all the people, to actually sit down with the kid, to talk to people who know him, people that don't have any vested interests, right? Who are neutral parties that you can get real information from. That if this kid ain't shit, if he is a bad dude, this guy's going to tell me, right? Because you can talk to some of these coaches and they'll be real with you, but a lot of these coaches, they're like politicians. They've got an interest to protect. As a coach that has to recruit more kids, you can't shit on a guy that has a chance to be a top 5 pick, to be the number 1 overall pick. You can't throw him under the bus. Because the next recruit is watching this shit and saying, bro, if he'll do that to Caleb, what are you going to do to me? He'll do that shit to me in a heartbeat. So you got to be able to talk to somebody that doesn't have that connection, that tie, that'll tell you the truth. Like, yeah, nah, I watched this dude every day for 2 years. One of the last dudes out on the practice field. First guy to leave. Did the bare minimum in terms of prep for the game. Like that, you need that information. We don't have that. All we can do is watch the games, make an assessment off of his athleticism, his arm talent, the throws we've watched him make, the decisions we've watched him make. We don't have all of the information. So that makes it tough. For me personally, I would have to explore the quarterback option first. If I don't love it, and I told you I haven't done my work yet, so I can't tell you definitively that I would go with the quarterback right now. If I fall in love with one of these dudes, I take him. I don't love any of them right now. And that includes Caleb Williams because I haven't watched enough. When it comes to quarterbacks, I am extensive. I'm not telling you I'm watching every single throw, but I'm watching a ton of games. I'm not going to watch 3 or 4 games and I got my evaluation ready. This is a big effing deal. This ain't a receiver. This ain't a tackle. This ain't an edge rusher where you can watch 3 or 4 games and get a feel. I got to watch the whole body of work. You had a bad game. Let me see what happened. You had a great game, 6 touchdowns. Let me see what happened. You had a so-so game. Let me see what happened. What they do defensively that kind of got you stuck. I watched him against Notre Dame. Caleb Williams stunk in that game. Shit happens, though. I'm not expecting the kid to be perfect in every game. But why did he stink that game? These are the things that... So I can't give you an answer right now what I would do at number 2. I'll tell you this much. I'd be looking at quarterback first. I can't tell you that. That doesn't mean I'm going to take one. But that's where I'm exploring first is quarterback. Because I still believe in Sam. But I'm not going to allow my allegiance to Sam blind me to the fact that there could be an upgrade over Sam sitting here. We're at 2, and we got a chance to take that guy. I can't ignore that. So I got to do my due diligence. But once I've gotten to my conclusion about these quarterbacks, if none of them jump off the screen and say, bro, draft me, I'm rolling with Sam. The one and only Bravo, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, who writes, if Chicago moves on from Fields, would you want him in Washington? No, I'm good. I like a lot of his qualities. I told you, if you watched that video that I just did on the quarterback conundrum, I told you that I agreed a lot with that anonymous quote that was attributed to the NFC executive. There's a lot to like about Justin Fields. And I actually do see him getting better as a passer. But there's still a lot of things that give me pause with him. And I would much rather take my chances with a new young quarterback over Fields. Because so some people, well, you're a hypocrite then because you want to roll with Sam. The difference is I've seen 3 years of Justin Fields. I got 1 year of Sam Howell. 1 year. Justin Fields is 10 and 27 as a starter. It's 37 career starts under his belt. And he's missed games. That's another thing that I didn't really mention that I should have in that video. But he's been injury prone every single year of his career. He's missed games. Sam hasn't missed a single start this season. So there's something to be said about that. Like a lot of people don't build that into the equation. But toughness and the ability to be available is huge in this league. As we saw this year, how many quarterbacks didn't make it to the finish line? But the sample size is a lot bigger for Justin Fields. Now, granted, the first year or two, there wasn't a lot of talent in Chicago. They left that young kid out to dry. And the coordinator situation was not ideal. I think he's had at least 2, if not 3 different coordinators in 3 years because Matt Nagy was his coordinator the first year. They had somebody else in year 2, and in year 3, I think this has been the first year with Luke Getsy, I believe. So he hasn't had any continuity or any of that, and that's tough on a young quarterback. But I think I know who he is. I think. But if Washington's new GM came in here and decided that they wanted to go get Justin Fields, I'm on board. Let's do it. long as the price is right, I'm good. But that wouldn't be my first choice. That wouldn't be my second choice. That wouldn't be my third choice, et cetera, right? Ron Bazile. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Ron, thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Writes, memorable Rivera quote, January 2nd, 2020. Uh-oh, let's see what this one says. Quote, if you do what we say and it doesn't work, it's on me. 4 years later, Rivera was right. It's Mr. Ron B, by the way. Okay, what's up, Mr. Ron B? OG, triple OG. You spot on. If you do what we say and it doesn't work, it's on me. That's it. It's on you, Ron. You got it, Ronald. Couldn't have said it better myself, Mr. Ron B. Oh, man. Duncan Wright, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy Duncan writes, you better win Sunday or else I call you frauds. Hey, you can get out any description of us that you like, any adjective to describe us. Knock yourself out, bro. Get out your get out your thesaurus. Good gracious, that was a mouthful. Get your thesaurus out. I'm gonna leave that one alone. I'm gonna leave that one alone because I can't get it out. Oh my God, I got cotton mouth. Whatever adjective you wanted to use to describe us, we've heard them all. I don't think there's many more that you can use that we haven't heard, right? So knock yourself out. But we ain't winning a damn thing, all right? And like I told you before, we don't owe you nothing, okay? So don't look for us to bail you out. How about you beat Arizona? How about you do that? Don't look to me to bail you out. You had a chance to win the division. Easy peasy. You just had to take care of business and you couldn't. So don't look for me to bail you out. Jay Black, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Jay writes, knowing how impatient this fan base, y'all want to draft a rookie. Are you going to let him develop because y'all gave Sam a short leash? It'll be different because now the crutch of, oh, he's a 5th round pick, that's gone. You draft a guy in the 1st round, top 5. Now you got to lose. You can't use that argument. So you don't have that leg to stand on, right? So I think immediately that gives him more time. But look, it's not just this fan base. It's a lot of fan bases out there. Ours is in particular very, very hurt, fragile, fractured. So, yes, I do believe that if we drafted a young quarterback and he did struggle early, you're going to hear a lot of the shit that we heard people say about Sam. But I think there'll be a lot less of it because, again, he's not a 5th round pick. That I heard that more than any other excuse, and that used to drive me nuts. Oh, especially the ones that wanted to defend Eric Bieniemy. Oh, you gave him a 5th round pick and expected him to do. I'm like, man, get out of here with that bullshit. Or as Deion Sanders like to say, get out of here with that bull junk. By the way, that is the worst way to change bullshit to bull junk. Bull junk. What the hell is that shit? Look, if you don't cuss, that's your prerogative. More power to you. But you got to find a better way to say. I'd rather hear you say bull jive. And I know that's old, but you got to find another way. Bull garbage is better than bull junk. You got to do better than that. That's trash. Anyway, I can't say what the fan base is or isn't going to do. But I can tell you this. No quarterback, no player is free after watching what this fan base has done to Terry this year, to Jahan this year, to Sam. No player, to Jonathan Allen, Hell, at times, Deron Payne, after watching this fan base go in on some of the best players in this franchise currently, nobody's safe, nobody's off limits. It was actually disturbing at times how this fan base was conducting itself. It's one thing if you think Terry isn't an elite top flight wide receiver, that's fine, because I don't think Terry's an elite. That's a strong word that people throw around way too loosely for me. But damn if Terry's not a number one, and damn if he's not a damn good receiver in this league. You can win with Terry McLaurin as your number one receiver. I've been on record as saying that. I believe that. I'm not going to change the way I feel. He's a number one. But to hear some of the things that were being said about him, for people to be calling Jahan trash and want him off the roster, what? Do you realize Jahan Dotson, it feels like he hasn't done shit. Do you realize he's got 500 yards receiving this season? You do realize that, right? Curtis Samuel feels like he's killing it, right? He's only got like 20 more yards than Jahan Dotson. Like, a lot of y'all don't realize that. But Jahan's trash, though. This fan base it can be pretty fragile at times mentally because of what we've been through. So I show them grace and mercy, but if you're going to draft a young quarterback, understand what comes with that. And if you're not, this is why I said what I said on yesterday's show. If you're not ready to deal with what comes with a new regime, a potential rebuild, I don't like using that word, but that's what this probably is going to amount to. If you don't have the stomach for it, don't sign up. Don't sign up. King of the Bluegrass. Been a member for 23 months. Almost got that 2-year pass, bro. Writes, what up, Lou? What's up, King of the Bluegrass? I don't understand why nobody is talking about Todd Monken as a coach. Imagine what he could do with Caleb or Justin Fields, and he can Baltimore defensive guy. He can bring the Baltimore defensive guy with. He's not leaving to take a lateral position, and the Ravens aren't allowing him to interview anywhere to take a lateral position. King of the Bluegrass. If you want to talk to Mike McDonald, you got to be prepared to hire him as a head coach. Todd Monken isn't leaving Baltimore and bringing the defensive coordinator with him. He could bring a linebackers coach or a defensive backs coach with him and give him the defensive coordinator, but you're not going to have a lateral move. That doesn't make sense for Mike McDonald, and it damn sure doesn't make sense for the Baltimore Ravens. Now, Todd Monken is a different story. He's been in the NFL before, so there's a little bit of luster that has been, lost on his shine, right? He's not as shiny as some of these new guys that haven't had that chance yet. That said, he's done a really good job in Baltimore, and his name will come up, but I don't know if he'll get a job this cycle. I'll just say that. DJ23 been a member for 11 months. Who writes 54 yards. That's it, EB. Give Terry some slants. It's not a lot. We're not asking a lot, but 54 yards is a lot for Terry in this offense this year. So that's with Sam at quarterback. It's been tough sledding. He didn't get his first 100-yard game until Jacoby came in against the Rams. So again, I don't know. He would have had 100 though in that Eagles game, the first Eagles game, if they didn't say that he stepped out of bounds on that catch in overtime. He would have had 100 in that game, but still, I digress. Let's see what happens. DJ23. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB who writes, damn, Lou, the thesaurus. I don't know why my mouth is, I know it's dry, that's why I got this water, but goddamn, I can say thesaurus. Just gave you a mean uppercut, LO. That shit was kicking my ass, man. I don't know why I couldn't get the damn word out of my mouth. Thesaurus, right? God damn, that shit was whooping my ass. And I'm so competitive. I'm like, I'm gonna get this shit right. Sometimes you just gotta know when to say when. And thesaurus had my ass on the ropes and beating the shit out of me. And if not for the bell and me being able to sit down in my corner and collect my damn self, the shit was over, bro. Thesaurus was giving me work, okay? And it be like that sometimes. Y'all don't know the struggle that I've gone through to be able to talk as well as I talk now, okay? So sometimes I get a word and that shit is just going to town on my ass. Bop, 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 bop. You know what I'm saying? So thesaurus got the best of me in the 8th round. But I'm back and I'm good now, man. I weathered the storm. So that shit was giving me some work, DJ. Mr. Ron B, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Mr. Ron B writes, what do I do with all these NHL brochures I was going to pass out this offseason? Hold on to them. They may come back into effect. If not, you can find some kind of use for them. You know, if you got a dog, put them down, let your dog use the bathroom on them, whatever. Make use of it. Look, I'm going to get my wares out of these shits, right? These are bought and paid for, okay? They're not going away. This will be a reminder of what could have been. If it was handled properly, this will be a reminder for me of what could have been. But if you got brochures, hold on to them. You might still get a chance to use them. It's a small chance. Very unlikely, but just hold on to them anyway. Just hold on to them anyway. Zoe Life, No Life. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Zoe Life writes, thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, if Pats win, Cardinals are the 3rd pick, do we not hold any leverage? I keep hearing MHJ is generational. So the question is, if MHJ is worth 1 or 2 first rounders, he's not a quarterback. Nobody's giving you that to get up to get him. He's a game changer, but ain't nobody giving up that kind of stuff, you know. Because if that were the case, then the Bears wouldn't trade out of number 1. They just take them at number 1 if that's how they felt. And they're not going to do that because they know quarterback trumps any receiver coming into any draft. Doesn't matter. The only other position that could give quarterback a run for his money, and again, this is not the 1950s and 60s where running backs were valued higher than quarterbacks because it was a run-first game. Quarterbacks will always trump any other position if those quarterbacks are viewed as being potential franchise QBs. Period. If you don't have a quarterback that you view in that light, then the next position is edge rusher. You'll always take one of those. And then the next position is tackle. You'll always take one. When's the last time you've seen a receiver go number 1 overall? I can't even think about it. Gotta be what? Keyshawn Johnson went number 1 overall, right? I think. Let me check. That's got to be the last. Nobody takes a receiver number 1. I don't give a damn how good you think he's going to be. So let me check, though. I'm actually curious. Hey, Google, who was the last wide receiver to go number 1 in the NFL draft?
Sorry, I don't understand, but I found something else. Do you want to know, has there ever been a WR drafted number 1?
Yes.
On the website CBSSports.com, they say, no receiver has been taken number 1 overall since Keyshawn Johnson in 1996, but the players taken in the top 5 have been a massive hit or a huge swing and a miss, who have been the best wide receivers taken in the first round of the draft since 2000. To find out more, look for the link in your Google Home or Google Assistant app.
Keyshawn Johnson in 1990. I'm a bad boy. I'm a bad man. Okay. I'm a bad man. Nobody's taking receivers that high anymore. And for good reason. Like, seriously, what are we doing? Yes. He could be a generational talent, but you're not gonna squeeze a couple of first-round picks out of somebody for him. You if somebody's that desperate to come up and get him, you could get a first-round pick for someone. I don't see that. I don't see that being the case. If I'm coming up and I'm giving you a first-round pick, it's because of a quarterback. If I need a receiver that bad, I'll just get Odunze. I'm not giving you a first-round pick to get Marvin Harrison Jr. I'll just get Odunze. I'll just get one of these other dudes. Hexic Gaming, been a member for 2 months. Who writes, Terry and Jahan could become elite duo with time. I mean, how much time we talking? I mean, Terry's what, 28, about to turn 29, I believe. Like, how much time we talking? I just think they could be an elite duo, period. I don't think they need more time. I just think they need the right coordinator. Right? They need the right coordinator who's going to pay attention to the finer granular details. And the quarterback also helps, clearly. But shit, if Jared Goff can do it, come on, man. And I don't like to shit on Jared Goff like he can't be super effective and accurate with the ball with time, right? But shit, if Jared Goff can do it, I know you can get it done with Sam Howell and Terry McLaurin and Jahan Dotson. It's just how I feel about that. Abel Ambrosio, been a member for 14 months, who writes, in 4 days, Ron Rivera, you're fired. Vince McMahon voice. 4 days and counting, guys. 4 days. Not counting today, obviously, but 4 days. We will have the start of a new era in Washington. It feels good. Yeah. It feels good. Zoe Life, no life. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, I meant Bears need number 2 pick to draft MHJ since cards are number 3, so they won't fleece us, I don't think. I also think 17 gave up on 14, probably a reach. I've heard people say that. My guy Derek B, we've gone back and forth, and he suggested that Terry gave up on Sam, and I don't think that's the case. But there was a moment, I think, and it was in the last month or so, where Terry probably realized I got a better shot with Jacoby. And obviously what happened in those 2 games against specifically the Rams game, but the Rams game and the Jets game didn't do Sam any favors, clearly. But I liked the embrace after the touchdown against the 49ers. I thought that instilled some confidence in Sam, in Terry rather, about Sam and what he could do. But I do think there was a period where Terry started to lose faith. And I don't know if it was in Sam necessarily, or if it was in EB, or if it was both, to be honest with you. Could have just been Sam. Could have been just EB. Could have been both. And as far as you talking about the Bears are concerned, if they want MH, but this is the thing, they do want MHJ, Marvin Harrison Jr., but understand that quarterback comes first. So whether they want him or not, the only team in the top 4 right now that isn't hunting after a quarterback is, well, we don't know what the Bears are going to do. But if the Bears are after a quarterback as well, then it's just Arizona. But if Washington and New England remain in the top 4, they both want quarterback. You just got to make sure you're still in front of Arizona. And that's not going to change the way that I conduct business, that I want Marvin Harrison Jr. Because off the strength of principle, I'll just take him number 1 overall. If you want to play that game, you don't want to give me what I'm asking for. I got 2 options. Either I can shit on you by giving the pick to somebody else and let them come up and take. Now that hurts me doing that if I really want Marvin Harrison Jr., if I can't still get him. Or I can just take him at number 1. Like, I could just say, well, I could just get something and move back. But the principle of that is I don't want you to feel like you got over on me. So if you can't give me what I'm like, you got in negotiations, you got to play hardball. And, I would always joke about Sprint back in the day when I was a broke teenager, and I would always make threats to Sprint. I wish y'all would cut my phone off. I'm going to carry my ass to T-Mobile. I don't give a damn. Sprint used to look at me and laugh like, bro, you ain't going nowhere, man. Don't be coming at me with these empty-ass threats. I'll cut your shit off. And so they would. And cut my shit right off. Can't even make outgoing calls. It's nothing worse than an empty threat. So if you're going to threaten somebody, you got to be willing to follow through, which is why in the NFL, don't ask me to take a pay cut if you ain't willing to cut me, because my answer is no. The only way Joe Mixon took the pay cut because he knew if he didn't take the pay cut, the Bengals were going to cut him. So he took the pay cut. The Dolphins went to Tyreek Hill and they said, hey, man, any chance you taking a pay cut? Hell no, I ain't taking no damn. Okay, cool. They're not going to cut Tyreek Hill. So, or not a pay cut, or restructure. Now I'm not restructuring nothing. I'm good. So, again, if you're going to ask me to do this or do that, you got to be willing to follow through. And if you're the Bears, you make it known. This is what I'm looking for. If you can't give it to me, we can't do business. They're going to get what they after. Trust me. Because it's less about what they want. It's more about what you want. You want Caleb Williams bad enough, you'll give me what I'm asking for. Period. King of the Bluegrass. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, Todd Monken as a head coach, not OC. Right. He's the OC of Baltimore. You said you'd bring him here as the head coach, and then you said you would bring the defensive coordinator from Baltimore with him. He's not coming here to be our defensive coordinator. So Monken would be the head coach, but you said bring Mike McDonald with him. He's not coming with him to make a lateral move, and that's what I was talking about. I wasn't talking about Todd Monken. I knew what you were referencing. Bring Monken here. You said no one's talking about him as a head coach option, and he could bring the DC from Baltimore with him, and I'm like, he's not going to do that. That's what I was saying. I got what you were saying. Anyway, I digress. So, that was the last super chat. And thus, that is the last comment, and we shall get out of here. I appreciate you guys kicking it with the kid. This was a great show. I think I'm going to chop this up and repost some of these for the masses, because I know a lot of these 2-hour, 3-hour videos scare people, and they can't get with it. So not everybody likes long form. Most people on YouTube, anything over 15 minutes scares them to death. So I try to chop this up into some small increments that are maybe a little bit more palatable for those who don't have the patience nor the stomach for long form content. But you see me repackage a couple of these. Just support. Even if you're not going to watch it, drop a like in, keep it pushing, whatever. You know what it is. But in any event, that's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on Commanders, our final episode of Commanders Nightly News Live. It's been a hell of a season, a disappointing season to say the least, but it's always great to chop it up with y'all. And I look forward to doing it again next year. Whatever the name of the show is next year. I think I've changed the name of this thing, 3 out of the last 4 years. It's been a different name. 4 out of the last 5 years, whatever that number has been. So hopefully it'll be Commanders Nightly News again next year. Anyway, Joe Rockhead, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, there ain't no one but Sam and me, but I got to do it because we family. I'm still out here, even though it's cold outside. In my ludicrous voice. Oh, man. I hope Sam plays well this weekend. Don't win. But he said, I watched him speak. You're down bad when the press conferences no longer take place at the actual podium. Now they just come into your locker and getting you in scrum form. But he said, I want to finish the season on a high note. I wonder if he knows. He seems like a smart guy and he gets it. But I wonder if he knows that, because I think we were all clear on this. I know I was. I said, Sam, because of your draft status, because Rivera is going to be fired if this season doesn't work out, you do know that you're probably only going to get one shot at this, right? And I think he was like, yeah, no, I'm aware. So I feel like he knew, but I also feel like he kind of is thinking he's going to get another shot next year. And I'm like, I don't think you really understand how this is going to go, bro. I don't think you really get this. But I know he said he wants to finish on a high note, and I'd like to see him finish on a high note. But again, we'll see what happens. You are one of the few that are still outside. Even I went inside. Once I thought he was being benched, I went inside. And that San Francisco game, I'm not going to lie to you, it kind of reinvigorated me. That was the best I've seen from Sam since the first half of the Dallas game. And at some point, I'm like, we got to score more than 10 points with Sam in the lineup. Like, this shit is getting bad now. Like, if he starts the game, we can't score any more than 10 points. He starts and finishes the game, put us down for 10. There'll be one drive in there where you go, oh, yeah, here we go. And that's it. I don't think I see that changing this week, but anyway. I digress. Y'all get out of here. I look forward to chopping it up with you guys tomorrow. We'll put a pretty bow on this last episode of Commanders Nightly News. We'll be back next Monday to chronicle it all. But I don't even know if we'll have a one final episode to push us out. We probably will. Or will we just jump right into the command post? Because I expect a lot of news on Monday. So I don't even know how I want to do it yet. I do know this is the last live installment of Commanders Nightly News. So anyway, I digress. You guys get out of here. Enjoy the rest of your evening. I'll see you guys next time. Y'all know what it is. Post up. Take command. Till next time, y'all have a good one. God bless. Good night.
Here comes the diesel. Here comes the diesel. There's the snap, hand to Riggins. Good hold. He's got the first down to the 40. He's gone. The 35, the 30.